Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show.
You want war and I want peace, but I'll fight you in these streets. If it means one less mother's gotta cry tonight. I got hope, but you got guns, and they're pointed at my sons. So I gotta switch up real quick or I won't survive. We get no justice, and we take too much. You keep pushing till I'm backed up against the wall. Hey.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. My name is Darrell Scott. My guest today is a drummer who can play drums on all the different formats, whether they be jazz, gospel, rock, R&B, blah, blah, blah. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gorden Campbell. Gorden, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Darrell.
Not a
Appreciate it.
problem, man. The very first thing I read talked about you having the ability to play in all these different, we'll call them genres, silos, whatever you want to call them.
hmm
First of all, I never knew that you could be a drummer and be a country drummer, or you can be a drummer and just be a jazz drummer. Are there really that many formats, we'll call them, and is there always a different flavor for each format? And we'll start with that.
Yes. First of all, thanks for having me. I
Not a problem,
appreciate
sir.
you asking me to be here. So in terms of genre, there are different styles, and there's a lot of drummers that only play one style. Like, for instance, like a country drummer that they probably live in Nashville, they only play with country artists. There's a certain vocabulary that each style uses. If it's a jazz drummer, they play a little light and they ding, ding, to ding, ding, to ding, and they're like lighter on the snare drum and the kick. Whereas a funk drummer, the kick drum is heavy. Boom, ka, boom. It's about the 2 and 4. So it boils down to vocabulary, just understanding. It's like languages. Like if you're speaking Spanish, you say certain things. If you're speaking English, it's still the same drum set. It's still the same type of, it's still the same words or the same you talking, but you're speaking different languages. So it's literally like speaking like Italian or Portuguese or English it's just knowing the vocabulary in that language,
How did you gain this skill? Is this a lot of practice? Is it self-taught? Do you need to go to class? I am not a drummer. I'm sorry. I just don't have the manual dexterity. I would be the guy who would be introducing you on stage, and that's where my
Right.
role ends. But
Funny.
I find that amazing that goes on.
Mm.
Tell me about that.
The main thing is listening. And I actually teach too. I was teaching at Musicians Institute, and I do a lot of private lessons, and I do a lot of workshops, literally around the world. And it's about knowing vocabulary in each style. So just to keep it on a language tip, I use an app called Duolingo. So like once a day, I'll go on Duolingo for like 10 minutes, and I'm doing Spanish. And I just listen to those words, and I do the exercises in Spanish. So, in theory, after a few months, I should be able to have a basic conversation in Spanish. It's the same thing with music. Like if I want to learn gospel, I listen to a lot of gospel because all we're doing is kind of pretty much regurgitating, or you learn the foundation of what the icons have done in the past. If it's a James Cleveland to the Hawkins to Kirk Franklin, I'm listening to all of that, and I'm listening to what the drummer is doing and what the bass is doing, and I just copy that style. Out of that style, my own style will eventually come out, but it starts with the basic foundation of knowing what the guys that came before me did. So if it's jazz, I'm going to listen to Elvin Jones. I'm going to listen to Jeff Tain Watts. I'm going to listen to Buddy Rich. I'm going to listen to Jack DeJohnette. I'm listening to like Dizzy or Wynton Marsalis or Miles, who's one of my favorites, Miles Davis, or George Duke, who I worked with for 10 years. I'm going to listen to that, and I'm just going to cop that style of whoever was playing with them at that moment. And then out of that, now if we do a George Duke song, I'll know exactly what to play because I know what his drummer played before. And then eventually it becomes my own because all of those things come together. But I think the number one answer is listening and just knowing what the language is in each style of music.
So let's say you're going out on somebody's tour.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they call you a month in advance. You start listening to them August 1st. The tour starts September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
If they're in a different genre, so to speak, do you start? Will it only take you a month to learn that particular style? I mean, if you're going out on a country tour, will it take you a month to learn the country portion of playing the drums?
Yeah, I could do it less than that at this point because I've been doing it so
Really?
long. So the basic drum technique it's the basic drum technique is the same across the board. All drum, like, you got to know rudiments. It's basic exercises that you use to build
Mm-hmm.
your chops up. So the basic rhythm is the same. Once you got that, then it's just listening to vocabulary. Like, okay, a country drummer wouldn't do a flashy gospel lick most of the time. They'll go, it's way more simple. So what you said actually happened. I was working with Jessica Simpson. What was this? 2009, and I was working with her since 2004 actually, and she
Mm-hmm.
had pop music, so it was more pop, R&B, soul, kind of funky
Right.
pop music. And then she did a country record, like straight up Nashville with all Nashville musicians. So we opened for Rascal Flatts in 2009. So what I did is I bought Rascal Flatts' greatest hits. Over the years, we just hear music over the years, so you know what his basic
Right.
country sounds like. I
Right.
want to know Rascal Flatts, so I just got their greatest hits. So, and on tour, you were around them. Backstage, we're in catering, we're all, and
Mm-hmm.
they were super cool. So I'm always studying all kind of country records, but for that tour, I literally was like on a Rascal Flatts tear, and I just listened to everything. So I'm not ignorant when I'm walking around them or say something stupid that I don't realize. So yeah, I do. If I'm playing, I don't do too much straight ahead jazz, but I actually was a jazz major at Howard University, so
Mm-hmm.
I play jazz too. So if I'm doing that, and some of it, because I know the vocabulary already, is getting my head in that space, getting my head in that headspace of, all right, I'm about to be out playing jazz for the next month. So just in my car when I'm driving, which is a lot in LA, I just listen to jazz like nonstop. Like I just all of my jazz favorites, or if it's fusion, I'll listen to that. So
You said
it's a lot of listening and it's a lot of playing too, but more is about knowing what vocabulary to use on that gig.
I can't imagine how many songs, one, that you listened to get this technique. Two, that you probably have at home. You probably have a whole wall of CDs or albums or whatever with
All of it.
all this different kind of music. And
All of
sometimes
it.
you walk over and I'm just going to put this one on and I will learn from this one. That
Yep.
Where does this talent come from? I mean, why did you want to do this at an early age?
Well, I didn't really choose it.
Okay.
As long as I can remember, I just been playing music. Well, for one, I'm from a family of pastors. My mom and dad's side are pastors. My mom's dad, my grandfather, where I grew up in Newburgh, New York, he was the pastor of our church. So I
Hmm.
grew up playing drums at my church. And you probably know pastors, their family usually do all the music, the choir
Yes.
director,
Yes.
because it's a family church. So
Yes.
all of my aunts and uncles on my mom's side, um, pretty well, my mom had there's 13 kids. At least 6 or 7 of them were fluent on organ.
Hmm.
So I learned organs just because at some point they stopped coming to church or they moved out of town,
Right.
and I was the default. All right, we know
Right.
you can play a little bit. Get on the organ. So it's that kind of thing where I'm in church. I got to be there. I've always played drums. I just can't remember not. They have a picture of when I was 5. I got like a little toy kit for Christmas, and it's in front of the Christmas tree. So I didn't. To me, it wasn't like, all right, I'm gonna play drums one day. It's like I just always liked the drums, and I just always played them. You know.
I can't imagine, and I say this to a lot of people that I've interviewed. At 5, I can't imagine. I know to this day I don't have manual dexterity, but
Hmm.
at 5 I might be able to
Hmm.
learn it.
Right.
Did you have to fight through that? Is there a learning curve of? Because here's me, and I was telling this to somebody just the other day. So piano is different because for the most part you only work with your fingers. A
Right.
drummer, left hand, right hand, left foot, right foot. is
Mm-hmm.
all going can all go in what I will call different directions.
Yes.
How do you? My brain can't handle that. How does yours?
Right. Well, one thing I would say, number one, it's a gift from God. That's what I
Mhm.
believe. It's a gift. Because I see some people, even grown people, that don't have any rhythm. But then I see other people, babies, that got all the rhythm in the world.
Right.
Like the church I play at now, there's a little kid. Since he was a baby, he could already go. He could do that. So it's like there's no other explanation than some people are just gifted in that field, where some might be gifted as a scientist, or like LeBron is gifted as a bat. He just always was good with no explanation. You're just kind of born with it. But the thing is, now once you, and this is what I noticed too, once you see that you're kind of good at something, then you get into it more. Then you actually start
Yeah.
studying and you put your 10,000 hours in. So I think it's a piece, it's all of that. For me, I was already playing at church. And then by the time I got to fourth grade, back then, that's when you pick an instrument if you want to be in band. I was already playing drums at church for the children's choir, like every Sunday at my church, in a real live setting where you couldn't stop. So by the time I got to fourth grade, I could already play better than the teacher that was going to teach me. But they taught me how to read. They taught me how to be. I was in the orchestra. I actually sang it. So by the time I got to fourth grade is when I actually took lessons, start taking actual lessons, reading notes on it.
I, and I'm not sure all of our listeners will agree, but I find that absolutely amazing because, especially in today's world, I'm willing to bet that I'll call it training benefited you as you went from, I'll call it acoustic, to this now technology stage. It was easier
Mhm.
for you to learn things. It's easier for you to, let's say, read music off a computer. It's easy to.
Mhm.
I used to be in radio, so I can edit like there's nobody's business. But when it comes to the
Mhm.
technology, it's a little slower.
Mhm.
It's a little this.
Mhm.
So at what point did you figure that I'm just going to go be a professional and be one of the world's best drummers?
Well, I don't know if I'm one of the world's best, but
Okay.
thank you.
Not a problem.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Okay.
But it just was always in me. Like even when I always wanted to do music. So it's funny. I was just talking to my daughter about this a minute ago. Like I'm from a small city called Newburgh, New York, 60
Hmm.
miles north of Manhattan. So it's not even considered a suburb, but it's close enough where we go back to Manhattan all the time for shopping, whatever.
Right.
But in my actual city, there's not a lot of professional musicians that's making a living. So in my parents' mind, there was no way that you can make a living as a musician, as playing
Right.
drums.
Hmm.
I always felt like I'm going to make a living playing drums. You know what I mean? And my mom, when I went to college, my mom was like, just get your degree so you can be a teacher, because then music teacher was pretty much the extent.
Right.
And for whatever reason, I just always knew like it's going to be bigger than that. And I would watch on TV, and this is before internet actually, so it was no YouTube, but on TV I would see musicians playing. She would let me stay up to see David Letterman because Steve Jordan was the drummer.
Yes.
And as soon as they did the intro, then I had to go to bed because I had school the next day. But she would let me stay up just to see that band intro.
Hmm.
So I knew that there was something. And I didn't know consciously, but I just knew like I'm a drummer
Right.
and that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
So I just kind of always knew. Even when I went to college, I got my degree in jazz studies at Howard in DC. And in DC, I met this group of guys called Shy back in '93,
Right.
and they put out a record and they went on tour. They moved to LA, and I ended up getting a call to be the drummer, to be in the band.
Right.
Yeah. So a friend of mine, Chris Dave, was actually, we were all at Howard together. There was a bunch of people there at the same time.
Right.
And they asked him first, but he ended up getting a band called Mint Condition
Oh,
the same
okay.
week. So he was like, well, I'm doing Mint. I'm moving to Minneapolis. So you got to do Shy, because they asked me to do it. And so since he couldn't do it and they already knew me,
Right.
it was a no-brainer. So that's how I got my first big tour in 1993, was guys from Howard.
Was there any pressure? You get this call, they're a major band, they're getting ready to go on tour, and they call you, and now you have to perform, and not only to impress them, but to impress the audience. Did you feel anything about that?
Not really, because of my upbringing. Coming up in church, my grandfather, I grew up in this Church of God in Christ. So they have conventions every year. So as a kid, I would go to the conventions and I would play, and it's thousands of people.
Right.
And they would do live recordings back in the day. Love Alive, not Love Alive, UNAC 5, A Song is Born with Maddie Moss Clark, the Clark sisters and all that. And I was a kid, and there was a bunch of us that are still friends today. since we were like 12 or 13, we were already there playing. So I always say church is really the best training grounds for any musician, because if you're in a garage band, you can mess up and there's no audience in it. But in church, it's actual service. You can't stop.
Right.
If you mess up, you got to keep going.
Right.
So, and then gospel it incorporates all styles of music, from calypso to reggae to straight up gospel, CCM now, which is more Christian rock. So if you play in church, that's the best training ground. You're like, so by the time I got to college, I had already played, and then I was in a group called Shining Light too, which is a gospel group. We would open up for whoever will come upstate. We opened up for BB and CC, Take Six, Commission, like all the gospel groups that would come upstate. We were the opening act. So I already had experience playing professionally before I even got that first tour, you know.
Okay, let's take a quick break. I want to hear some of your music, and we're going to play some of your music because that's what we do here on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. We're going to listen to a tune called One Mind on the Jazz Flyte Podcast.
We just have to do it. We can start the movement today. No time to waste. We'll be okay. We just gotta make it right. If we don't love each other, then we ain't gonna make it. If I don't treat you like my blood, then I'm just faking. If we just come together, can't nobody be left. But what if we had one mind?
Do you write music?
Oh, yes.
When
I've
did
been
you
writing since I was a kid.
talk about that experience? Because sometimes I have a trouble creating a sentence. I can tell you the structure. I can tell you noun, verb, predicate, all that stuff. But to actually put it in words and write it on paper, I sometimes struggle. How do you come to write songs?
Okay, so for me, my first instance of having to write something was when I was in high school. I was in charge of the gospel choir at my high school, my 11th and 12th grade, junior and senior year. So we would go to a competition in New York City every year, and they would have a songwriting competition. So it also goes back to church. Like growing up in church, and then I'm around people like my uncles and aunts, and we would go to choir conventions, and you bring your music. So people would write songs. So I was around it since I was a kid. My aunts and uncles and people in my jurisdiction, they're songwriters. So when it came time for this competition, I'm like, I'm going to write a song. And I've already playing organ and keys and stuff. So I put some chords to it. I put some lyrics to it. And I actually won Best Original Song, down in LaGuardia High School in New York, School of Music in New York City with my choir, Best Song. So since high school, I've been writing music.
It appears from our brief conversation, it appears as though that you have been blessed. From a musical standpoint, from writing music, playing music, doing drums. And then I would guess you also have the pressure of the family. You know, you could have been a doctor, but they probably would have said, you know what, stay over here and do this. How do you make that decision, and how do you stay strong, especially when your family is on your back to perform and do this?
Yeah, well, there's multiple things, because, growing up in Church of God in Christ, playing anything other than gospel music is like a sin to them.
Right.
So, it's weird. I think it's just my personality, or maybe because I'm a Taurus, I'm kind of like bullhead. I just knew what I was going to do, and that I never faltered at one. I never even thought about it. Even moving to LA, it just was me. This is what I'm going to do. Of course, my parents are supportive of whatever I, was going to do, so they were there. They didn't even understand what I was doing, because it's not a big thing in my town. So I understood that they didn't understand. I just had to do it for them. I had to do it for them to see it, and so, but yeah, I just think I've always just known what I want to do. Even I tell the story a lot. When I was leaving my last Sunday at my church before I went down to DC to go to Howard, one other guy from my church and from my high school was going to Howard too. Derek, and my grandfather stood us both up in front of the church saying it's their last Sunday, they're moving to DC, and he goes, "What are y'all going to school for?" And Derek goes, "I'm going for business. I'll be in the School of Business at Howard." I said, "I'm going for music," and he just goes, ha, ha, ha. And this is my grandfather in front of the whole church. All right, Like it was like basically like you can't make no money. In their mind, you get a job, you go to college, you get a job, and you work there, and then you get a watch when you. So it was a generational thing.
Right.
For me,
Yes.
it didn't even faze me. I just remember to this day he was sending us off, and they took an offer and they gave us the offer and they split it, and so it was a good thing, saying thank you, but it was more about that moment when I said music. When he said business, it was like great.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
like music. So, but it didn't even faze me. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do music, and that's what I'm going for. And you guys will see. I just never thought about it. It's just something I just,
Right.
and that might be a gift too, to just be able to just like not be phased. You know.
What? Who was the first musician you met when you moved to LA?
Ooh. There's a guy named Tony Moore.
The drummer who just.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 We're praying for him too because he has cancer. So they did a fundraiser. I texted him maybe 2 days ago, and he hit me back with a thumbs up. Let him know. So he didn't even remember this. I told him when I first came to LA, we were rehearsing at a place in Burbank, and in the other room I heard drums. So of course, as a drummer, I just go peek my head,
Right.
and it was him. He was in there by himself, and he don't remember this, but I remember it because it was the first. So I would have to say Tony Moore.
Okay.
Was the first person. And then another guy who was the musical director on the tour we did, Myron McKinley, who now is musical director for Earth, Wind & Fire.
Yes.
He was our MD, so he probably was the first. Him and Tony were the first two LA guys that I met.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. You mentioned, I think we all need motivation in some way, shape, or form. And I'm very much I have these 3 bands on my wrist. Let me see if I can get them in frame. I will, stop wishing, start working, prove them wrong. And it's one of those things I don't need to hear it every day. I just need to somewhere in my field of vision just see it.
Yep.
And the funny thing is when it comes to prove them wrong, it's not everybody. It's one person who has said something negative about you. You want to go, you don't necessarily say it, but you just go, I'm going to make them pay in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
I am not it's funny, we were talking about this Sunday at the basketball game. I am not when I played basketball, I'm a point guard.
Right.
And I played with a ton of shooters. I don't know, you're not from here, but there was a guy here named Clark Kellogg. Clark went to St. Joe's. I was a Shaker. In the summertime, we played with each other. And when I see Clark now, he was doing stuff with the Indiana Pacers. He'd look at me and go like this. I go, Clark, I don't have a ball. I can't pass it to you. But in the summer league that we played in, I probably averaged 18 assists a game, but I also never crossed the foul line. I didn't.
That's crazy.
We ran all the time. But my job, get the ball at the foul line, dribble up the court, and they used to laugh at me. Are you going to cross the foul line? Nah. I'm passing this way to Clark. I'm passing this. Right. And you perfect that skill, and then people call you or pick you because they know what you can do. There's a lot of competition with drummers. I shouldn't say competition. There are a lot of drummers.
No, there is competition. Even if it's friendly competition, there's competition. More so from the artists than the actual drummers themselves.
So they want their drummer to be the premier drummer as opposed to whatever. But how do you? I can't imagine. And I've talked to thousands, well, maybe not quite that, but a lot of musicians. I've heard about all this competition that goes on stage, but I can't imagine what it's like. I'll call it in the resume part of it. They got to hear you. They got to hear your work. They got to see if you fit in, see if you can continue to groove. And I could understand that if it's just jazz. You have all of these. How do you maintain? Are you practicing every day? Are you perfecting your craft? I can't imagine musicians have resumes. People got to hear you and things like that. How do you maintain that? That's an incredible level that you must maintain. How are you maintaining that level?
Well, the older you get, the harder it gets to maintain. In the beginning, well, this is what I tell students that I teach. Most of my work was done in the basement of fine arts at Howard University. I did most of my work in my practice room before I got here, because once you get out here and you start working and now you got rent or mortgage and then you start having kids, that stuff requires money. So I can't practice 3-4 hours a day.
Right.
And I actually, even at Howard, I didn't practice 3-4 hours a day because I was in class, I was in marching band, jazz band, gospel choir, everything. So you just figure out, you have to put the work in basically, and
right.
that's how. But maintaining wise, if you have a solid foundation, all I got to do is play a couple hours a week now. Like I'll just go sit down for a couple hours, and after, when you start touring, because I've been here 32 years. I toured for 20 years straight, and then I just cut it off for a minute and wanted to produce and stay in my studio. You're just working, so you don't really have a lot of time to actually put work in. I still say my foundation came from the beginning, having really a solid, and I played in marching band too. So chops wise and technically my hands are decent. And I can feel the difference as I get older. Mm-hmm. But if I work for a couple of days throughout the week for 15, 20 minutes, I still can maintain that level of, or at least some level of excellence. Mm-hmm. I also listen to all the new guys. I think a lot of older guys, and I'm not old, but a lot of the older guys, they look down at the younger guys because the style is different.
Yes.
And we didn't play like that back in the day. And we didn't need no drum machine. But no, you have to embrace everything.
Right.
And so I listen to the young guys, and I take their licks and I slow them down and I analyze and I figure out what they're doing. And that's the only way to stay relevant, especially in LA. Yeah. It's harsh out here, and it's not drummers, but it's the artists. Like they want who the best is, right, and the best for their music, you know. On top of just personality and cool to be around and easy to work with and professionalism, being on time, that kind of thing. But the bottom line is, if you can play and make it sound like their record, that's who they want, and, you know.
All right, that's good. All right, before we go, let's take one more break and listen to some more music. Let's play something on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Dude, you're just good. You are.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
And I don't know, you don't want to rank because you play different styles, different venues, your solos are different. I mentioned Harvey Mason a minute ago. I saw Harvey play the stage. He did a solo and he played the floor and the theater and the round. He's playing the edges and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That creativity is so important to me. When I watch it, I pay attention to things like that. I want to talk, but before we go, I want to talk about one other thing. You teach this Masterclass. How did that come about, and why do you do it?
I do it because I think it's important to give back, and I realize I like teaching because a lot of my peers don't have that patience. I teach little kids. Like I have a lesson today with a guy. He's 8, but I started when he was about 6 or 7.
Wow.
They're little. So I even had one student that had Down syndrome. So it was like he can't even play a beat, but his mom wanted him to just.
Right.
So I think that's another thing that I just was gifted with, like some patience. And I get joy out of seeing them pick up. So it's easy for me, and you can tell I like to talk. So I like passing on the information that somebody gave to me from my OGs. Told me like, yo, you need to do it like this. And this is what's going to create good music. And a lot of the times, and I say this too, the older guys will talk down on the younger guys because they overplay and they're not listening. Right. Well, somebody has to tell them. The way I learned, because I did the same thing. Somebody brought me to the side and like, look, young man, like when you're doing this, or, I played in the band in DC and the leader, Larry Seals, plays sax. He was like, do you understand you playing all over my solo? If I'm soloing on sax, I need you to listen. So it made me think like we're having a conversation. I'm not going to yell at you if you're talking
Right.
to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it made me start thinking musically, and I almost put it to like a Kobe or like a LeBron, how they see the game differently
Right.
than they're not just reacting. They
Right.
see what's happening before it happens.
Right.
And they go, okay, at this point, so it's the same thing. Like on the solo, break it down, build it up. Or if somebody else is soloing, break it down so they can get their ideas out. Don't be
Right.
a distraction to what they're doing. So you learn and so for me, I want to give that back to the next generation. What somebody told me.
How long have you been doing this masterclass?
Well, I just do workshops periodically. I've been doing them for
Okay.
years now, probably like 20 years. And it's and I endorse a few companies like Zildjian Cymbals, Yamaha Drums. They have educational pieces to their company.
Mm-hmm.
So when they know people that can do it, they'll send you out to different places. I've actually went to Kenya one time. I've been to Kenya, Mexico. And sometimes it's the people in them cities. The drum community is huge. So it's super huge and they all want to know what you're doing. So people will fly you out if you're in demand to tell them what you do.
I can't imagine. I was talking to Nathan East some time ago, and I
Mm-hmm.
go, how come there's not to me, and just me, Nathan,
Mm-hmm.
Marcus, Stanley, Victor Wooten are my favorite bass players. I said, why isn't there like a bass players concert where you guys just get on stage and play? Why
Me
isn't
too. Those are my favorites.
why is there not like a drummers convention or a concert or something like that? Because once again I go back to the manual dexterity. All
Mm-hmm.
all appendages are moving not at the same time. How come we
Right.
can't get you all on stage?
There are many of them
There are.
around the world. I'm telling you, I've been
Oh,
everywhere. They have the London drum. They call them either drum shows. There's one in Indianapolis every year, Percussive Arts Society, called
hmm
PASIC. They call it PASIC, and that's every year for a week. And it's drum clinics, it's marching bands, like full drum lines. There's percussion ensembles with marimba, timpani. It's everything. So no, that's what I'm saying. It's a huge market. Like
Jeez.
I have friends that they make their whole year salary just doing workshops around the world yearly. They get paid a lot of money, like higher than over hundreds of $1,000 to just teach and go to these clinics. And so they are there, but if you're not in that scene, you might not
Right.
know that they're happening.
Which
But
which
yeah,
brings
no,
which
they're
brings
big.
me to this question, because if I didn't, I can feel somebody with a 38-ounce baseball bat hitting me in the back of the head. How does
Mhm.
somebody find out about your master class?
Well, mine, I don't have a steady master class that I do. I've
hmm
done them for just different companies, and I just do them
Okay.
like I'm trying to be at PASIC this year. That's in November in Indianapolis
hmm
every year at the convention center. Yeah, I don't do a steady one. It's just
Okay.
random. You just got to follow me, and I'll post on my social media or on my website where I'm going to be.
That answers that question. So what
Hmm.
is your website? What is your social media status? Where can we find
So
you?
I got to rebuild my website, but it's there. It's GordenCampbell.com.
hmm
GordenCampbell.com.
Okay.
The best way to get me is my Instagram. That's what I'm on, like, all day.
Okay.
And that's Gorden512. Gorden, and the number is 512.
Okay.
And my
Well,
Facebook is just Gorden Campbell.
okay. We'll let our folks know that once this drops, you will get a copy of it, and you can see
Okay.
everything that we do. I the one thing about this show, and I'm pretty sure I am older than you. Don't let the gray hair fool you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I
I don't
am.
know. I'm old.
We'll talk about that. But I think the more and more people I talk to, I've done this for 18 months now. I was in jazz radio a long time ago. Um,
Hmm.
got to meet a bunch of people and become friends and watch. Um, People ask me how many concerts have you seen, and I go, no, we don't want to get into that because it's an
Right.
awful lot.
Right.
But I've been asked a couple of times, what's your favorite show? And I laugh at people and I go, I saw Stan Getz at Blossom Music Center. It's an outdoor place, kind of like the Hollywood Bowl. And it was
Hmm.
just, I couldn't say anything. He
Yeah, I
didn't
think I
talk.
played there.
He didn't
Oh,
talk.
really?
He just
Mm.
played. And it's like,
Wow.
and it was so good. And another story. I'm in a Bose store, and the guy comes over and goes, "Let me turn this up." I go, "I don't need to hear the hype. I don't need loud. I need
Right.
soft where I can hear everything." He
The
turned around and
clarity.
walked. He turned around and walked away like, "I think this guy knows what he's talking about."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's not about loud because loud
right.
will give you a false sense.
Yeah. So what else is what do you have coming up? What's new? What can we look forward to hearing from you?
Yeah. So outside of just being a drummer, I also produce music, which is why 2013 I was like, I quit. I just want to write because I've been writing this whole time,
Right.
and I have a couple good placements. I have a song that I did when I first came to LA with Gerald Albright and Layla Hathaway that I
Hmm.
wrote. So I've been on the songwriter tip and producer tip, and I produced my album, and they talked me into putting an album out.
Right.
So now I have that album that you're playing, Conversations. Now I have a new live video album. I don't know if you've ever seen like Snarky Puppy, how they do the videos with the
I've heard
audience
of them.
sitting in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a new album coming out like that. So it's an actual live album with an audience, and there's a video. So I'm going to release the videos on my YouTube.
Okay.
Kind of like I kind of follow the model of Snarky, and
Hmm.
they got Grammy. They've been getting Grammys every year, the last
Right.
10 years or so.
Yes.
So I kind of, and they're all my friends too. I know all of them.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
but so I did a live at East West Studios, which is a very famous studio in Los Angeles, like from Frank Sinatra, Marvin Gaye. Whitney
Hmm.
did Bodyguard soundtrack there.
Okay.
Sinatra, Nat King Cole. It's super famous.
Right.
So I picked that room because of the nostalgia in Hollywood, with full audience of about maybe 80 people
Hmm.
and full band, background singers, horn. So that's coming out soon.
All right. I will ask that you let us know so we can put it on our social media so everybody can
Okay.
get a chance to hear it. Man, I appreciate this. As I don't know if you know a guy named Evan Taylor. I was talking to him
Hmm.
a few weeks ago.
Where I know Evan Taylor from? I know that name. Is
Trumpet.
he a musician?
Yeah, he's a trumpet player. He's
I
young.
think
He's
I
like
know Evan.
28 years old. I'm like, what? I go, you could be almost my grandchild. But
Right.
he laughed. It seems like a really nice dude though. But
Mm,
it is back in the day when I was doing stuff. Sanborn, Najee, Bob James, blah blah blah, Earl
mm.
Clue.
All the
That
heroes. That's
that
who
was
I
the
listen
thing,
to.
right?
Yeah.
And now in doing this, I get to find out about people like yourself, people like Evan,
Hmm.
and so forth and so on. And this is what makes this job for me fun. It's also the conversations. You're a good brother.
Hmm.
I don't
Thank you.
I don't talking is what we need to do. I wouldn't know about you if you didn't talk.
Right.
Nobody would know about you if you didn't talk. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
We
Yep.
here at Jazz Flight will do what we can to get your music out to the public. If you're ever in Cleveland, let me know. We'll get together.
Hmm.
Um, Evan's going out on the Dave Cox cruise. I go, hey, as much as I'd love to go, I'm not
That's where I
going.
know him from. I'm
Right.
on that cruise too.
Are you?
Yeah, I did last year, and I'm
Yeah.
doing. Actually, they already sent me the deal memo for 2026 already. So yeah, I'll be there. That's where I know Evan. I was like, I know that name.
Right. Yeah. See, I asked
Yeah.
him, so what do you do when you wake up in the morning, you want to go have breakfast after you've played a show? Everybody on the ship's got to know who you are. Are strangers sitting down having conversations with you? Are you shooing people away? Are you
Yes.
staying in your stateroom? Um, I'm the guy who goes, I just want peace. Every now and then I want peace and quiet. So I sat on the
Hmm.
balcony, had a bowl of
Hmm.
fruit, something to drink, and watched water.
Yeah.
Because water can be the most relaxing thing there is.
Yeah. It's healing. It's healing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Gordon, I will say this. Hopefully we have a chance to talk more again
Hmm.
later,
We will.
whatever comes out. Like I said,
Hmm.
we'll do our best. So thank you once again for the time. And let's just have fun. That's all we can do. Let's just have some
There
fun.
you go.
All right,
Thank
folks.
you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Jazz Flight Podcast. Our guest today is Gorden, spelled Den, Campbell. If you like what you hear, like it, watch it. If you like it and you want to hear more, because there are more musicians, whether it's Gerald Albright, Kirk Whalum, Gordon, Evan, whoever, then subscribe, because this way you'll get all of it. And we have some more things coming up, and we got some pretty impressive people coming up too. So thank
I
you.
forgot to add one thing.
What's
The way
that?
to get in touch with me too, and to
Yeah.
be like a direct to artist consumer fan,
Right.
my Bandcamp /Gorden Campbell.
Okay.
And they can leave a message. I'll see it. I'll respond. They could buy my album on there, and it's higher def than actually like play
Like
than Apple Music or Spotify.
okay.
It's a higher definition, so it sounds better
Cool.
on
Well,
the Bandcamp.
one thing we might do is put together a little mini playlist, not all 1,453 songs that you have out, but maybe like
Right.
8 songs. We can just put it up, put the link out there, and people can go and listen. Because
Okay.
once again, it is getting the music out to the folks. And
To the people.
yes. All right, man. So once again, folks, thanks. Listen next week. You've been watching the Jazz Flyte Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.